Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Gutierrez, historian and author of the book Patriots from the Barrio. And welcome to our D-Day special edition of our Patriots from the Barrio podcast. Today, our story is of Private First Class Francisco Contreras Garza, who served with the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the famed 82nd Airborne Division during the D-Day landings. D-Day, Operation Overlord, the Allied landings on Normandy France. It was the largest seaborne invasion in history, and it launched the liberation of Western Europe in World War II. Back in 2019, the world was getting ready to honor the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings. As that day was nearing, I started to think about all the heroic Latino Americans who were part of this historic landing, and those stories that we had never heard of. I started to look at the casualty reports from D-Day, and a few of the names jumped out at me. Frutoso Chavez of Paso, Texas, was serving with the 29th Infantry Division when they landed at Omaha Beach. Frutoso Chavez was killed during the landings at Omaha Beach. Chavez had left behind a wife and a young son named Jesse. I found Jesse, who helped me put together the story of the father he never met. The Odessa American in Odessa, Texas, published an article I wrote on Frutoso Chavez, and it appeared on their front page on the 75th anniversary of D-Day. CBS 7 in Odessa also ran the story, and also a news segment on our story on Frutoso Chavez. La Voz, a publication from Austin, Texas, and from our good friend Alfredo Santos, published a special D-Day edition with the story on the front page where I stated, "Take a walk in the cemeteries of Europe, and you will find the markers of Mexican Americans who never made it back home." It is estimated that 2,500 American lives were lost during the D-Day landings, and among them were Latino Americans. Here we are now in 2025 on this 81st anniversary of D-Day, and I want to bring to light a new story that I felt should be told, and it's the story of Francisco Contreras Garza of Calvert, Texas, who served with the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne Division. Francisco Garza was one of 8 children born to Jose Garza and Magdalena Contreras on October 5th, 1922 in Calvert, Texas. Growing up in Malakoff, Texas during the Great Depression, Francisco's older sisters would sew and make their clothes. The family, like many of their time, migrated from town to town for farm work, and sometimes that work took them out of state. In the summer of 1942, Francisco registered for the draft and enlisted in the United States Army on October 26, 1942. Francisco would eventually be assigned to 2nd Battalion, Company D in the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment. So who were the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment? Well, it was activated on October 20th, 1942. Lieutenant Colonel Roy E. Lindquist commanded the unit, and Lieutenant Colonel Lindquist would command the 508th through the entirety of World War II. By February of 1943, the unit was at Fort Benning, Georgia, for parachute school. They spent time in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee before getting their orders for the European theater. Now, within the Army, Francisco was known as Frank. So Francisco would go by the name of Frank in the Army. It just made it easier for everyone to, instead of saying Francisco, everybody for short called him Frank. So while in New York, Frank sent home a photo of himself with another soldier from Company D, a soldier buddy of his. And it happened to be Alfredo Navarez Guzman. Now, Alfredo had been born in El Paso, Texas, and he had enlisted from New Mexico, and both of the men were serving in Company D. On December 28, 1943, the 508th boarded the US-8T transport James Parker and headed off for Ireland. They would spend New Year's Day, 1944, sailing across the Atlantic. They arrived in Ireland on January 8th, 1944, and continued to train in Ireland until early March. The 508th would take a ferry from Ireland to Scotland and boarded a train for the 300-mile journey to their new base camp at Wallington Park in Nottingham, England. While stationed in Nottingham, the 508th continued to train and practice jumps out of C-47s. Every now and then, the men would get some time off and get to mingle with the locals. Frank met a local girl while he was there in Nottingham, and the two became very fond of each other. From mid-March to June, the 508th was at Wallington Park in Nottingham. Letters from home finally caught up to the men in the unit. Frank sat down to write his mother, Magdalena, back home in Texas. Frank and his mother wrote often. And most of the times Frank would write in Spanish so that it would be easier for his mother to be able to read, because she read more Spanish than she did English. Frank read both Spanish and English, but it was easier for his mother to read in Spanish, so he wrote in Spanish. So Frank decided to write his mom, and he wished his mom well in the letter, and thanked her for the package that she had just sent him. His mother had sent him cigarettes and candy. It's something Frank always asked for when his mother would ask, "Is there anything I can send to you?" Now, during World War II, cigarettes and candy from home were like having valuable assets to trade with others for things that they needed personally. So he always asked for cigarettes and candy whenever his mom could send. Continuing his letter to his mother, he also let her know that she should not send anything at the present time until he wrote back again. It seemed that Frank didn't know exactly where they were going to end up at, so he had his mom hold off before she sent anything else. Frank also told his mother about a local blonde girl that he had met that was very special to him. And he also informed his mother that their intentions were to get married. The local girl was so special to Frank that he mentioned her by name in the letter. And the name that he mentioned in the letter was Doreen Sanders. So here's this young Mexican-American kid from Calvert, Texas. He just got off a boat, a ship across the Atlantic. He's taking ferries from Ireland to Scotland and taking this train ride all the way to Nottingham, England. And here he is training with the 508th Parachute Infantry Training Regiment. And he meets a local girl from Nottingham, England, by the name of Doreen Sanders. Now, the letter was dated June 3rd, 1943. Just 3 days before the historic D-Day landings. It would be the last letter Magdalena Contreras Garza receives from her son Frank. In the last hours of June 5th, 1944, the 508th made the short trip from Wallaton Park to Saltby Airfield to board their C-47s. This time, it was not a training exercise. Before the most historic seaborne invasion in history, the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne was to jump behind enemy lines in Normandy, France, with the following objectives. Number one, they were to seize and destroy the crossings of the Douve River at Bouzeville, La Bastille, and Etonville. Number two, they were to seize and organize and defend the area along Renouf. Number three, they were to clear and secure the designated division area. The fourth objective was for 1st Battalion to assemble without delay in an area indicated for a reserve force. So in case they needed to immediately react to something, the 1st Battalion would be able to move quickly. Number five, they were to patrol aggressively to a line indicated on their maps. And number six, they were to be prepared for division order to advance to the line of the Douve River. With those objectives, Frank's 2nd Battalion, Company D, had some hard work to get done before the first Allied boot hit the beaches at Normandy. At approximately 2 a.m. on June 6, the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment jumped into history. Many of the C-47s carrying the troops missed their drops, and as a result, many paratroopers missed their targets. 3 of the aircrafts were hit and never made it. Frank's aircraft made it through, and Frank actually made the jump. Frank landed amid a large German force, and within a minute of landing, Francisco Frank Contreras Garza of Calvert, Texas, was killed in action, trying to complete the mission of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment in one of the most historic days in human history. Back home in Rockdale, Texas, where the family was now living, the Garza family was notified that Frank had been killed in action. Lieutenant Colonel Lindquist, the commander of the 508th, wrote to Frank's mother to offer sorrow and condolences. The Garza family is still in possession of the letter. The Garza family also received a certificate from the White House that read, "In grateful memory of Private First Class Francisco Garza, who died in the service of his country in the European area June 6, 1944. He stands in the unbroken line of patriots who have dared to die that freedom might live and grow and increase its blessings. Freedom lives, and through it he lives, in a way that humbles the undertakings of most men." The certificate was signed Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States of America. Private Alfredo N. Guzman of El Paso, who had taken a photo with Frank in New York, also made the jump into Normandy. He survived the first few days of the battle, and on June 12, 1944, just 6 days after jumping into Normandy, he was wounded. Private Guzman healed enough from his wounds, and on September 17th, 1944, he made the jump with Company D into the Netherlands as part of Operation Market Garden. On the same day that he had jumped into the Netherlands during Operation Market Garden, Private Guzman was captured by German forces. He would spend 7 months in German POW camps before his camp was liberated. His camp was liberated on May 4th, 1945, just 3 days before Germany officially surrendered. Private Guzman made it back home. He married Dolores Ordóñez in 1950. Together, they raised 6 children. Alfredo Guzman continued to serve in the U.S. Army and retired as a staff sergeant. Sergeant Guzman, who had been part of 2 of the most historic paratrooper combat jumps, passed away in 2006 in Morristown, Tennessee. As we honor all those who served in the historic D-Day landings at Normandy, France, the stories of men who have names like Francisco Garza, Alfredo Guzman, are stories that have remained in the shadows of history. The time has come to honor all of those who, as President Roosevelt wrote, "The unbroken line of patriots who have dared to die that freedom might live." I thought it was such an important story for us to share with you and to continue to bring you stories like those of Francisco Garza and Alfredo Guzman, 2 paratroopers who were also part of the historic D-Day landings. Now, this story could not have been possible without the help and assistance of some very important people, and we'd like to acknowledge them here now. Really, the connection with Kathy Garza Greathouse The niece of PFC, Frank Garza, was really instrumental for me to be able to put his story together. Kathy's father, Benito, is Francisco's younger brother. I'd also like to acknowledge the Guzman children of Staff Sergeant Alfredo and Dolores Guzman. Their son, Tony Guzman, Alfredo Guzman, Eduardo Guzman, and daughter Aurora Ordóñez Guzman McDaniel. Also, which was very helpful, was the website of the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiments Association website. I mean, their website, with their vast historical records, was very helpful in helping me put their story together. And if you'd like to learn more about the 508th, please visit their website. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add their website on the description of this podcast. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can look down in the description. You'll find the link there. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, you can look at this description and find the link there. We'll make sure that it's there. We hope you enjoyed this edition of this special D-Day edition of our Patriots from the Barrio podcast.